Welcome back to Straight Facts on Wednesday. Sava is back in the house on the football terrace. How you diddling, mate? You well?
I'm good, mate. Things that I needed some time away, sort a few things out, and I'm back and ready for the transfer window. So
yes, a few weeks away.
Like 11 days or something until everyone signs everyone and everyone's going to win the league. So it's all good fun. I'm excited.
I know, and I think this year's window is going to be maybe more exciting because I think Spurs fans, Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans all sort of believe if we buy right, we can have an amazing second half of the season. So there's going to be lots going on. It's good to have you back on as well. I know you're away on holiday and stuff for a little while. So, yeah, good to have you back on. And viewers, we're going to be talking Arsenal and their pursuit of Ivan Toney. We're looking at Todibo to Spurs. Talks have begun in relation to that, according to Fabrizio Romano. And yes, Daniel, I'm sure Villa fans will also think if they have a good January window as well. I just picked three teams out at random, if I'm being honest. We're looking ahead at Arsenal's travelling trip to Liverpool as well. Plus, Man United looking to rip up Sancho's contract, maybe Greenwood's contract. But some United fans want Greenwood back. We're going to get into all those conversations on the show today. But I did want to start with Spurs, to be fair. It's been a little while since we spoke about them. Mm-hmm. They were in a really bad run, but, a couple of wins on the bounce now. Your manager has adapted that nonsense that he was going to, especially when you got a man sent off the other game. Suddenly you weren't on the halfway line. He's adapted, won some games with those injured players and looking a lot more stable right now, Tottenham.
Yeah. Look, I think that we had a blip, if you could say a blip. I think it brought a lot of people back down to reality. It looks like, 2 wins in a row now. Looks like we can build some sort of momentum. We've got to carry that on now. We've got Everton at home. Not an easy game, but I would like to think that we've got enough firepower. I'd like to think that we've got enough firepower to get past Everton. And then we go to Brighton away. So look, it could be 3 or 4 wins again on the spin, or we could be upset by Everton. But look, it was important that we stopped that mini rot, if you know what I mean. Lots of talk before the Villa game. Oh, Villa are bad away. Came and beat us. Oh, West Ham, we should beat them at home. They came and beat us. So it was really important to get that win against Newcastle. And we just go again. We go again, as I said. I'm not putting too much pressure on this season. Let's go again. Let's see if we can get some European football back. And hopefully some of those players will start coming back from injury in the new year.
Look, I think it was important, of course, to stop the rot, but also there was this weird kind of polarizing views within the Tottenham fan base from some of the same people. We're winning the league down to without 1 or 2 players, we're absolute dog poo. And I always felt that both opinions were a little bit of an extreme.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be losing to West Ham, even with Maddison out, even with Van der Ven out, in the way that you did. You shouldn't have lost the Villa game, even with them out. The nonsense when all those Spurs fans, especially the Spurs fans in the media, who were pushing that narrative, I saw it on TalkSport of, no, we played a high line with 10 men and 9 men because that's Ange's way and he will not change and he will not adapt. This notion of we don't care if we don't win as long as we're playing good football. Big Ange himself come out and said, what a load of nonsense. If we're not winning football matches, we're not playing well. And then I thought the game at the weekend was really important for you because you won, but you had a man sent off. And
yes,
you didn't do what you did against Chelsea. You didn't sit drastically deep, but you weren't on the halfway line when they were on the halfway. When you played Chelsea, they would have the ball near the halfway line and you were stood on the halfway line. Yeah, so you guys didn't do that. And that shows me, one, that nonsense gaslighting that Spurs are going to do something that's so brave and innovative, no one's ever tried it before, was crazy. The manager's come in, he's made some mistakes. He's gone, do you know what? My style overall works, but these were mistakes and I'm changing them. And I think even when you beat Newcastle, what I was so impressed with was how you started well scored. Started the second half, you were compact, hard to break down, you absorbed them, and then you sprung on the counter-attack. Rather than being the aggressors for 50, 60, 70 minutes, maybe still leaving the game open because you didn't take your chances and then falling apart with fatigue. And the most sobering factor of the rival watching Spurs is that Big Ange is learning very quickly what it takes to win in the Premier League. And I think that his ability to adapt and change elements of his football is exceedingly potent for yourselves. Of course, you need to improve the squad. Every Spurs fan worth his salt, every football fan who knows the game understands that you've got to grow that strength in depth in that squad. But Spurs, to me, still, I look at you as a team that has got a massive chance of a top 4 finish. Definitely going to be in the top 6 and back in Europe next year. I can't see you go. I don't think you'll go on another run as well where you sort of don't win in 5 or 6. I just think that was a little bit of an anomaly. The manager made changes. There was injuries, suspensions all at the same time. But I think it's going to be a nice little turnaround for you, mate. I really do.
Yeah, look. I was always of the opinion that Chelsea game with the high line gate, if we call it halfway line gate or whatever we call it. Look, there was loads of different feelings about that within the Spurs fan base. Essentially, he's brave and what he did was great. I was in the other camp of there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity. I didn't think it was good. What we've seen is we haven't seen anything like that since. Look, I think he is learning. I think he is adapting. I think he's a really good manager. I don't think that's ever been in doubt. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. And I away when it's all going really well. I don't get too downbeat when it's not going well. For me, as with anything in life, Terry, I think most things don't sit there or there. It's probably somewhere in here. And I think that's where Spurs are. We've got a long way to go. But what I would say is about Tottenham Hotspur, I think what's different for me right now is normally when you get a new manager, you just get a new manager, right? This summer, and again, I wouldn't expect everybody that's not too deep into following Tottenham, everything changed at Tottenham Hotspur this window. So it was a brand new technical director of football, or director of football, whatever you want to call them these days. Johan Lang came in. He brought in his own scouts. We brought in new academy directors that now play the same football that Ange plays. You brought in the new manager in Ange. We got a new medical team. Like, everything changed, a new philosophy implemented, and those things take time. So I think the first 10 games was a real bonus, right? I think the first 10 games was like, hang on, what's happening here? Are we this good? Are we great? I don't think we were. I think we were a good team. I still think we're a good football team. Yeah. But there's going to be bumps on this road, but I like the road. I like the road we're on. That doesn't mean I think we're going to win every single game between now and the end of the season, but I do think we won't lose. I don't think we're going to lose loads and loads of games, and we go again, and hopefully we start being a bit ambitious in the transfer window.
Well, you are linked with a move. According to Fabrizio Romano, he says here that talks are now underway with Nice to sign the centre-back Jean Clair Todibo, who is also linked to Manchester United. He states that he's high on Tottenham's list. The deal was not easy. Yep. Spurs have also spoke to the players' camp in recent days as well. So it appears that centre-backs are right up on the sort of top of the priority list. In terms of this player, how much do you personally know about him?
I've actually been watching a lot of him the last couple of weeks. His name's been, you know what it's like before something like this breaks. There's rumours, there's mutterings and murmurings, in the background, and lots of talk has been about the Spurs want Todibo. I've watched him a few times for Nice. I like him. I like him very much. He's now in the French setup as well, and he's learning off a stalwart of the game in terms of he plays centre half with Dante. If you remember Dante, who's now 40.
Yes.
He's now 40.
Bayern Munich Dante.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So he's playing centre-back for the last 3 years. He's played centre-back at Nice with Dante. And they forged a really good partnership. And if I'm not wrong, I believe that in the top 5 leagues, Nice have the second best defence in Europe this season. So it gives you some idea into his potential, that he's learning off of Dante as well. And yes, I'm pleased with that. We really need another centre half, Terry. We really need another centre half. I think we've seen drastically that when Romero and Van der Ven were out, it was like, oh God, this is this is like going back to the dark ages of defending. So listen, we haven't signed him, but Romano has confirmed. He said yesterday, I don't know if you saw this. Romano said yesterday on stream something. It's called Streamfire or something. He said, look, I've got news for Spurs fans tomorrow about something that's happening at the club. So obviously we all went into overdrive going, oh my God, who are we signing? Oh my God, Mbappe's coming. And then a lot of people were saying that they thought it might be Todibo or Jota, the guy that played with Big Ange in Celtic. So really pleased to see that news today. I love it when Romano comes out with not an easy deal to do. And I'm thinking, this is Daniel Levy. No deal is easy to do.
It's true. I also think part of it is because it's Nice. And of course, the Nice owner is about to buy 25% of Man United.
Yes.
And Man United have also been looking at him. And I'll be honest with you, this is one of those players I haven't watched lots of his games and I never professed to watch lots of football. But what I've read about him, there's a player in there, technically gifted, physical specimen, a very good athlete. Honestly, if we do bring in Sir Jim, if this deal goes through, which it looks like it will, if he allows a Premier League rival to go and sign one of his players, theoretically, this should be an absolute slam dunk. But in fact, we should get him for nothing. We should be giving him on mates rates, right? It won't happen like that because I know that they're not going to be able to do it. But this should be a slam dunk for Man United. It really should be. To allow this to happen is crazy. Genuinely, if we allow you to get him, I'm going to be a little bit gutted. I think there's a player in him. I'm not going to say he's on the level of a Saliba. I wouldn't say he's of that standard, but there's a very young, talented defender. And I think about him at your club, and I know that it would give you 3. So you've got Mickey van der Ven, Romero, you guys love. I have a little feeling he might be someone that replaces, if he signs for you, I think he might replace Romero in the medium to long term. Romero's brilliant. The problem with Romero is he's not. The problem with Romero is it's a silly yellow cards, it's the penalties, it's the reds. And the one thing about Big Ange, I think Big Ange will recognize talent, but Big Ange wants 11 men on the pitch. He wants no stupidness. And I'm not saying it will happen straight away, but you bring a player in with the caliber of whether is it Todibo or Todibo, either way. Jean Clair is his first name. Whatever happens, if you bring him in, suddenly you've got somebody with the absolute quality. Like, you know what, Romero, you keep letting us down. Too erratic, too aggressive. This guy comes in. At the moment, it doesn't really matter what Romero does. There's nobody else in your squad anywhere near that level to really kind of push him. So people say, no, sorry, Terry. Well, listen, Todibo is someone that wants to play first-team football for a big club. If he joins Tottenham and he's sitting on that bench, it won't last there long and he'll be off somewhere else. So the point is, he's a first-team player, in my opinion, and I'm crediting you that. I don't think he goes anywhere in the Premier League without becoming a first-team player within a year to 18 months. So it's an interesting one for me.
Yeah, look, if I could take the first part of that, the Sir Jim Ratcliffe part of that, and then I'll come to the Romero part of that. Look, I was on with Sean from Spurs Talk Show the other day, and we were saying, we were talking about centre-back options. And I said to him, like Todibo, and he said, yeah, but he went, can you really see the Man United part owner selling us Todibo? And we were both a bit like, no, he'll end up at Man United, yada, yada, yada. Now, listen, obviously, he still could end up at Man United. This is purely Spurs are in talks, which means, from my point of view, it means that we would have had some sort of contact with his agents and the player, and they've said, yeah, we're interested. Okay, speak to the club, right? That doesn't mean we're going to sign him. So watch this space. Anything could happen there, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did end up at Man United. I'm not saying it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up with us, but it wouldn't equally surprise me if he ended up with you. I think the thing about the situation with Romero and Van der Ven is, listen, they started to strike up a really good partnership. Obviously, it's early days. I think they've only played 10 games together before Van der Ven picked up his injury. I think the key thing is, if you are going to be if Spurs want to be a bigger club, if we want to be a club that grows and builds and starts to compete, then what's important is you need competition for places, right? You're not playing well, right? Come and sit on the bench. Go on, Todibo, you go in today, right? But equally, among that, you've got Van der Ven, who's now picked up a serious injury. We don't know how he'll come back from that.
True.
That could be recurring. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying hypotheticals.
Yeah.
You've then got Romero, who loves a suspension. Like this guy, like you said, I think Christian Romero is, and Spurs fans always get me wrong when I say this. I think Christian Romero is a very, very, very good centre-back. But he does have that part of him which lets him down, which for me is the difference between him being up there and there. I think that little bit of hot-headedness, that little bit of rashness, if he could get rid of that, I'm not saying get rid of the aggression. There's controlled aggression, right? I'm not saying lose the passion or the hunger or the fight, but be a bit more smart about it. Because a lot of these tackles he does where he, like, let's be fair, he should have got a red card against Newcastle, right? They're blatant. They're so wild that you think, where did that come from? We're 3-0 up at home to Newcastle, right? We're 3-0 up at home to a poor Newcastle on the day. You're thinking, nothing needs to happen here. Just chill. And he goes diving in, cracking at people's ankles. And so for me, I think you need 3. I think you've got to have 3. I don't think it's just about replacing one. But I've always said, Spurs fans will hate me for saying this, I've always said, I think within 2 years, Christian Romero will be at a Madrid or a Barcelona or a Juventus. I think he'll be somewhere like that because the Argentinians, the South Americans, they grow up dreaming of playing for those clubs. And there's not a plethora of world-class centre-backs anymore, Terry. Not like when we were growing up.
Yeah, no, there's certainly. Listen, I think what you said there makes a hell of a lot of sense. And sometimes when you say, I think Todibo will become the first team at your club, people go straight to, you're disrespecting my current guy. No, there's multiple reasons why it could happen. The same as I thought with Arsenal fans. I said, I think within a few months, you're going to realize, one, Declan Rice is better than Partey, and most agree with that now. But more importantly, you're going to want him as your captain. And the amount of streams I do now with Guna say, Rice is our captain, And it's just because stop being so attached to the players you love and think about your club. If Todibo comes in and is better than what you've already got, then he's going to play. And you won't actually care about Romero or even Mickey van der Ven, who you guys have fallen in love with very, very quickly. But I agree with your first point. I would be, again, the only way we don't go for him is if literally there's no money, or secondly, we've got, in our eyes, a better option. But what I've watched of this guy, he just looks really competent, looks technically good, and defensively I like him. Just watching him play, he plays.
He looks like an athlete, right? He looks. Yeah, and
I think Premier League football has changed. And I was talking about this on a show I did the other day. You still need to have a good level. I think football in general has changed. You have to have a good level of technical ability to make it at the elite end of the spectrum. But if you have got a high standard of athleticism, if you are powerful and quick combined, and if you have agility, you've got and let's just say your technical ability is only a 6 out of 10. You've still got the chance to play for a big team now at a very high level, including Champions League football. If you've got an ability that's an 8 or a 9 or a 10 plus those physical attributes, you're going to be an absolute star. But the athleticism needed now to play elite level European football is so high, and Todibo has that. And when I watch him, there was talk about Onana and Arsenal recently, and I saw Culture Cam on DR Sports talk about it, and I just thought he's so right. Technically good to very good, but as a physical specimen, powerful, quick, energetic, great stamina. It's so needed in football right now. I mean, you've seen with Mickey van der Ven, when he was playing, your defensive line got caught out so many times, but because of his speed and power, they got to the box and won the ball back. So it's fine to play that high line. It's fine to commit so many players forward when you have the athleticism and the physicality to get back into shape. When you're Man United and you don't have a lot of athletes, that's a reason why, no matter how hard they work, we struggle to get back into shape. We struggle when we're caught out of position. So yeah, I think he could be a massive asset for anyone who gets him.
I mean, look. Obviously, we've not got him. We're in talk. The transfer window's not even open yet. There's certain things. Like, one thing that Spurs fans always get frustrated about is we never move quickly in a window. So, like, in January transfer windows, we're very good at leaving it till the last day. And Anne just said a couple of times publicly now, like, we must move quickly. We must get them in at the beginning of the window to give us maximum chance for them to help us. This is the sort of signing, Terry, for me, that this is a very good signing, right? It's replacing average players in the squad with good players. And that's what Spurs have to do. And it's what we've not been doing. So I'll be really interested to see. I think we've also got to think longer term, Terry. Like at the moment, Spurs are playing 1 game a week. So it's like, oh my God, how are these people going to play? Then they're not all going to get game time. The aim surely is that you're thinking, right, we're going to be back in Europe next year. That's got to be the aim. And if we're back in Europe next year, now you've got more games. Now it's a case of, all right, there's plenty of games for Todibo and Romero and Van der Ven.
Yeah, of course.
So I think we've got to be thinking bigger past this year. I think it would be an excellent signing. Listen, we don't know the guy. He might come in. He might need the first 6 months to be a bit part player and settle. He could come in and from game one be amazing. We don't know, right? Players are all different. But for a Spurs fan to hear that we're in talks with him, that makes me so much happier than when I heard in the last window that we were in talks with Lloyd Kelly of Bournemouth. No offense, but do you know what I mean? There's that level to it, right? So listen, I can't complain. I know Tottenham though, so I won't get too excited until I see him wearing a Spurs shirt. But positive,
I hear you on that, and that is certainly a sensible way to look at it. Viewers, hit like buttons. Make sure you are subscribing. We have a question here from Twisted, who says, Terry, why does the footballing arm of United only cost 25% of the total value? Well, so they're not, it is 25%, but you've got to remember that the Glazers only own 67% of the club. The rest of it is on the stock exchange. So he's buying, when you break it down after the 25, they're going to have 25%, but that leaves the Glazers with 42% and the other shareholders with 33%. So it isn't costing a quarter of the total valuation. They're buying a quarter of the Glazers shares from them, as opposed to they're buying more. I suppose they're buying a quarter of the club, but the football operation, they're not valuing as a quarter of the club. That's part of the deal. They get control over that element. So you really got to break that. So yeah, it's not as, again, I understand where you're coming from, Twisted, but that's the kind of breakdown of it. And that's what we're all excited about as Man United fans. The hope is that they come in and they genuinely take control and they start to run. We're looking at Ashworth and Paul Mitchell to run the recruitment side of things, and Jean-Claude Blanc to come in and be the CEO, who has an excellent track record. But collectively, the three of them, I can't imagine them running it worse, by the way, than a bunch of bankers. I imagine it's going to get a little bit better. If you have a restaurant that's where your chef and your cooks are all plasterers, if you suddenly get rid of all those plasterers and you bring a good quality chef in and some good quality cooks.
I bet you'd get a mean fry up.
You get an amazing cup of tea as well. You get an amazing strong cup of tea as well. On Man United, though, I want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
I think I should premise the question as well, actually, because it is a difficult one to answer. There's a lot of talk from Man United fans that they want Mason Greenwood back.
Right.
A lot of that trended last night because he had a fantastic game against Atletico Madrid. I watched the highlights of it. I think we see Anthony on our right-hand side, who's awful. Jadon's been phased out and wasn't very good before that. And I did watch the footage last night of Greenwood, and he looks amazing. And you've got players from Atletico Madrid saying, wow, what a player. There's been links in the last few days to the Barcelonas, and some huge clubs in the world now want him. And I suppose this train of thought amongst Man United fans is, look what we've got. And two, if Barcelona or Real Madrid or Bayern Munich are going to have him, then why can't we? As in, some other giant club is going to benefit. He's still going to be the guy that did what he did and people don't like him. But a giant rival is going to benefit from him and we're not.
Yeah.
United fans want him back. What do you think? Do you think Man United should try? If a big club's going to give him a chance, should it be his parent club? Should it be Man United that try and rehabilitate him? Should it be Man United that try and make sure he stays on track? Or should they sell that responsibility onto somebody else?
How long, before I answer any of that, how long has he got left on his contract?
I want to say until 2025. I could be wrong. I'll have to go and check.
All right. I guess the answer is this. I don't know. These are really difficult discussions, right? Because always at the back of the mind with something like this, there is what he did, right? So there's always going to be a stigma attached to any answer that anyone gives. If I just try and play devil's advocate here, you've got a player that is being paid still by Manchester United, right? He is being paid by Man United, whether or not where he's on loan. Sorry, where's he on loan again? Why have I gone blank?
Gafite.
Oh, right, let's have that. Right, okay. Don't know why I went completely blank. Right, so they'll be covering some of his wages and you'll be paying. All the while you're paying someone's wages, the question I would ask you is, if you don't want him to be in your team, why not pay it out? Do you know what I mean? And why not rip up his contract if he is not going to be considered eligible to play in a Man United shirt? Equally, if you're going to keep him and just have him out on loan and you're paying wages, why not have him back in the team? Now, we get to the moral standpoint of all of this of hey, look what he did. We can't be having that associated to our club. Then you'll say, well, hang on, other clubs are going to have that associated to their club. Is it okay for those clubs to have that because it's probably out of sight, out of mind, and it's not in England and it's not at Manchester United where this all happened? It's a real, I say interesting one. It's a conundrum, right? I think that whatever Man United do, right? Whatever Man United do, they're going to get pelters from portions of the fan base. Because I can guarantee you now, if we had 10,000 Man United fans in a poll, right? And you said, should Greenwood be allowed to play for Man United again? I doubt that it would be 100% saying no. I'm guessing there would be a portion that say, he's our player, right? So you're going to piss them off, or you're going to piss off the ones that are like, hang on, no, what he's done is terrible. So this is not an easy situation, but you're paying him. You're paying him. Why can't you play him if anyone else can play him? That is a good argument. So I don't know. I don't know. I haven't got an answer, man.
But you know what's really I'm posing a question based on what I'm seeing people say online, and you get people basically saying, Terry, why are you making excuses for him? Why are you saying you should have him if other clubs have? I've not said that. I'm posing, learn to listen. I am repeating what I'm seeing other people say, as opposed to, I haven't given my opinion on this yet. So Inter Yanan says, this is what's funny with you, Terry. You want a reset with toxic players gone, but now you want them to stay. This isn't what I've said, is it? I have not said this in any single.
Terry, this is the problem with you.
It's the problem. This is the problem with 2023. People take a question as a statement. So, say for instance, Gary Neville today says Mo Salah's finished, and then I turn around to you and say, "Do you think Mo Salah's finished?" Me asking that question is not me agreeing with the statement. It's me asking a question to garnish the show with opinions. Imagine not asking questions. It's crazy. Look, I agree with you. I think there are lots of things at play here. I think morally, I don't want him back at Man United still. I'm still very resolute on that. There is a part of me, the footballing part of me, that is, of course, sad for what happened, and it's horrible what his partner went through. It's part of me that's sad that this talent that I rated from a young kid who I thought was developing nicely isn't going to be, in my opinion, a Manchester United player. So I will openly admit that. But from a moral standpoint, I think it's right that we move him on.
Mm-hmm. Do you think...
Go on.
Sorry, just quick, I was going to say, do you think that all of this is an issue because Man United didn't make a hard and fast decision back at the time when all this happened? So, for example, had they turned around and gone, contract ripped up.
But I think we have made a hard and fast. I think we have made a hard and fast decision. I think the decision is the hard and fast decision was we're going to hold on to him as long as we can to see whether we can get him back in the team. That's the decision. Right. It just looks convoluted because it's essentially this. I don't even necessarily know if Barcelona. It's why I'm saying to Man United fans, don't get suckered in by showing your backside, saying, well, if Barca are going to have him, we might as well have him back. Because we don't know if Barca are really interested. This could be Man United again, leaking to the press that Barca want him. Because what it will make people do is they'll go, hang on, if a club the size of Barca is going to give him another chance, why shouldn't we? That is what is going to make certain people say. This is how they're trying to test the water as to whether or not they can bring him back. The point is this: there's your own moral standing and feelings on this situation, and mine are resolute. I don't personally want him back. Do I understand people thinking and feeling those other things? I get their point of view. Doesn't mean I agree with it. And I know in 2023, understanding somebody's point of view, people, well, that means you agree with them. No, it doesn't. It just means I understand the point they're making. But for me, it's very much a case of, I think if he goes Barcelona or Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, it all gets forgotten about. It genuinely.
Yeah. Is it out of sight, out of mind though? I.e., different country? Like,
no,
do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I also believe if he joined another English club, there'd be some turmoil to begin with, and then it would go away. If he signs for Man United, if he signs for Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, then it will never disappear. Because I also do believe this. Some people are genuinely grounded in their morality of this guy shouldn't play football again, or shouldn't be in England, or shouldn't be at a big club, whatever it may be. There are also people, in my personal opinion, that only care about what he did because he's a Man United player. They only care about and we've seen this before, that there are fans of certain clubs who have got players that have done similar things, players who have done worse things. Depends on who you ask, whether it's better or worse. I'm not getting involved in that conversation. And I've seen them stand by that player and throw defense out for them. But yet when it comes to another club, they'll defend them. And so for me, I think there's such a mixture of opinions within this. It becomes a very hard conversation. But for me personally, I don't want Man United to bring him back. I don't think morally it's right. I don't think the club needs the attention. I don't think every game needs that attention. Every time, if he was to come back, every game we won where he played well, every game we win where he scores, any trophy we won where he was pivotal to us doing it, is just by the media and by rivals and by a lot of our own fan base, including me, is going to be tarnished by it. So for me, I'd say for me, when it comes to Man United fans, I say let it go. Personally, I say his actually contract actually runs out in 2024. We've got an extension option to extend it. I say extend it, sell him, raise a bit of money, and then move on. That is personally what I would do with this situation. But it just intrigued me how a little media story of Barcelona wanting him, some good performances whilst Adam needs rubbish, and suddenly there are lots of people throwing their morality out the window. Oh, bring him back. And for me, I think you've got to be a bit stronger than that.
Look, these types of things are always going to cause controversy because, look, we've had it before with, if you look, famous cases down the last sort of 10, 15 years, you've had it with Ched Evans with the case that he went through. I mean, he was eventually found cleared of all of that, but that ruined his career. And everyone was having these types of conversations. You had the incident with what's his name at Man City, who's suing them, isn't he?
Benjamin Mendy. These situations. So
it's really difficult. I think what makes it more difficult is that he's not being found guilty. Do you know what I mean? I think
there is that side of it. There is that side of it. Sad. But it's also that, and also the club in its statement said that new material, facts, and evidence came up that changed things. Well, my view is, tell us. And maybe they won't. Maybe they never will. But from my point of view, I've heard what I've heard and seen what I've seen. I can only change my opinion. So, for instance, we've all seen this. This happens to celebrities before, where a celebrity is arrested, the media prints what they have done, and we all say guilty or innocent. Then the court case happens. You read the transcripts, you listen to the case, and maybe your mind changes. And we've all seen that. We've all seen that with a celebrity, whether it be Kevin Webster from Coronation Street, Johnny Depp. There's a guy from Marvel just now. All of those stories have been handled differently by the media, or the public have had a different look at the world. Look at the world when and I get his name wrong all the time now. I just say it the way Dave Chappelle says it. Juicy Smollett. When he did the whole I got attacked in the street in Chicago, it turned out to be a lie. The problem is sometimes these things we go, oh, that's terrible, and it's true. And it turns out it's a lie. Sometimes we go, oh, that person's a scumbag. Turns out they're innocent. But you only know that once you see the evidence. And it's hard to change your opinion on something.
Can I ask?
When you get the evidence.
Can I ask? Listen, maybe I'm not as up to date with this as first thought. Did it go to trial?
No. So he was charged.
Okay, so he was
never went
charged.
to trial. So they dropped it.
Right.
And essentially the official line was new material evidence came out. Certain witnesses didn't want to give evidence, and it fell apart. But also, him and his partner had got back together, and she was pregnant. So you're in this situation where I think they looked at the whole thing and thought, well, we're not going to get a conviction. However, it's so vague. It's not enough to change my mind personally. That's all.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, look, I suppose what hasn't made any of this better is the fact that he is back with his partner, right? And listen, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I think I don't ever give a hard and fast answer. On football, I will, not on these types of situations. If you've got a situation where all of the world, we're all sitting there going, guilty, 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 you're the worst person in the world, you're this, you're that, you're the other, then he's back with his with the person that was in question about this. You've got two ways of looking at that. A, was it as bad as we thought? Or B, is she caught in a, you know, you see it all before, don't you? You see domestic abuse where people are
caught in a trap, yeah. And
right.
And the problem that you have, because we don't have any more information, for me, I'm not telling anyone else what to do, but for me, I had my stance. Nothing has come out that's made me change my mind. So therefore, I stick to my original thought. If, for instance, evidence came out that completely changes all of our perspectives, that's very different, but it hasn't. And as I was making that point earlier, I remember when, not people don't know who he is, but when the guy that plays Kevin Webster was arrested, everyone thought, you know, he'd done these bad things to this girl. And then I remember reading the transcripts for a lot of the court. I was really interested in it back in and it turned out the guy was beyond innocent, to a point where the alleged victim's mother was on his side in court, right? So then you looked at it and you were like, wow, but I was intrigued because the media had ruined him. The way they spoke about him, he was guilty by media, and he ended up being really innocent. But my mind only changed because I read the transcripts. Ryan Giggs had his case recently, and I know a lot of people haven't read the transcripts around that, because I'll tell you what's why, Sav, I bet you haven't either. I'm not saying he hasn't done anything wrong, but some of the things that came out that she'd lied about in the past, like she lied she had cervical cancer so she could stop taking her pill, but then it all turned out it was just a way of trying to trap Ryan Giggs into getting her pregnant. It was all confirmed in court. These are from the court. So the point is, if somebody would lie about having cancer, could they lie that somebody hit them? Maybe. So again, your perspective starts to change around, is this individual story true? And I'm not saying because it got thrown out without everything being heard. But the point is, until you're shown all the evidence, it's hard to change your mind. Look, viewers, do us a big favor and hit like buttons, please. Make sure you are subscribing. Someone here says what? No, legitimately, that was, again, go and read the transcripts from court. And in the end, it got basically like, I don't know what it's called, where they couldn't get a unanimous decision, so it was thrown out, and then I think now he's been cleared. But there are lots of things. You've got a daughter, Terry, right? What's that got to do with anything? What has that got to do with anything?
Look. Let me look. First of all, I don't think comments like that are appropriate. But second of all, look, we've all heard the transcript, right? So we've all heard the video. So what we've done is everyone's made, fair enough, everyone's made their assessment based off the video. The difficult thing with anything that's played out in the media, it's like anything. It's like if I have a row with my missus, right? I'm not saying to that point because she'd beat me up, right? If I had a row with my missus, right, I'd be sleeping in the dog's cage. If I had a row with my missus, right, the only two people that know what has gone on truly will be me and her, right? If I have a row with you, Terry, face to face, me and you, no one else is in the room. The only people that will know what has happened 100% is me and you. And you know what? Me and you will have very different versions of events when we're telling other people, won't we? We'll have very different versions. Now, all of a sudden, it doesn't become about the truth. It becomes about who you believe. The difference with this story is the video recording. The sound recording of Greenwood. Is that the question I'll ask? Is that sound recording enough for him to not play for Man United again? If it is, everybody is welcome to that opinion. If it isn't, everyone is welcome to that opinion. I just think if Man U have no I'll bring it back to football. If Man U have no inclination to play him again, rip up the contract, let him start his career somewhere else, and let him go and do something. No,
I agree with that. And Mike Street here says, Terry, with all due respect, there is no evidence that can come out that can wipe away what we've heard. I agree with you. I don't personally think there is. The statements have claimed there is. So my point is, until you show me that, I can't take it seriously. I need to hear it. And even then, I might not change my mind. And this is my opinion on these situations. Just from a personal standpoint, as I say, if I'm accused of hitting Sav, but then I can prove that Sav is a continuous liar who has made multiple false accusations in the past, lied about being seriously ill, done all these things, that's different, because that's a me versus him, but I can prove him to be a liar. Then it's a case of, well, do we believe him this time or not? If there's physical evidence or visual evidence or audio evidence of something, I don't understand what it can be that changes this. So that's why I've said all the time, Mike Street, my personal opinion hasn't changed on these matters. I'm just making I'm just making a general statement that for me to change my mind on something, I need to see something tangible. And even then, it needs to be enough to convince me based on me wanting him back. But viewers, look, give us your views, give us your opinions on this. I stand by what I've said, and I stand what I've said before. I don't want him back at Man United personally.
Can I just ask? I mean, I can't remember the audio. If I'm completely honest, I remember seeing it a while back, but life happens. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, don't need Sava. Thanks, Bill. I love Bill. In that audio, I'm not saying this is right. Before everyone jumps onto me, was it physical that we heard, or was it threatening behaviour?
I don't really want to go into it on because I talk about this stuff on YouTube. Sure, cool. But it was it was more. It was the threat of physicality. Does that make sense? Right, it was the threat of an assault, which is heinous in itself, as I say. So it was a conversation, but it was around. It was almost trying to force himself upon somebody and him getting angry that she wasn't letting him.
Right, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the last thing I've got to say on that matter. And whatever Man U choose to do, I think Man U need to do it soon. And look, let the guy listen. He's going to be a footballer. There's no point everyone screaming and shouting that he shouldn't be allowed to play. He's going to be allowed to play because technically he's not being found guilty of anything. The real question here is, would he have enough support if he did it at Man U? That's the question, right? Because he's going to be a footballer. He's going to play professional football. Yeah, okay. So
I hear you on that. Remy says, Terry, I say your argument is baseless. What if there is no evidence that is presented to prove the abuse against? Well, if there's no proof, then that is the. I'm only going by the statement. So they said new material evidence makes him innocent, but made it hard for them to prosecute. Yeah. So the official statement is telling us there is. I want to know what that is. That's all I'm saying. That's it. So I get your point, but you're making an argument that doesn't exist in this particular case because it said there's something. So that's why I hold that opinion, because it's based on what the CPS have said. So there we go. If they are together and having a kid, would it not be better for the victim and child if they were to keep his contract at United, even though he's guilty? I mean, financially, you could argue yes, but look, I think from that point of view, yes. I mean, you could argue they would still need his money for the rest of that child's life. I don't suppose that's Man United. Again, Man United have got to make a decision. Listen, if that was the case and Greenwood wasn't in the picture, if they tore up his contract but paid the money was owed to him to her, then I think that'd be a great message. But that's certainly not going to happen, in my personal opinion. The other story that's circulating around Manchester United, excuse me, Terry, is every Man United fan a saint? No, but that's completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant,
But all Southampton fans are.
At Manchester United, there's talk that the club is in conversation internally to tear up Jadon Sancho's contract.
We're going to go to another one, are we?
And on top of that, I want to ask your opinion. A lot of fans are saying this will be great to try and eradicate player power. You down tools, you speak out against the club, you treat us the way we feel we've been treated. We will just terminate contracts. This sort of talk is the new regime coming in and just not going to tolerate this. Do you think that's the right way forward, in your opinion? Do you think that'll help fix Man United terminating Jadon Sancho's contract?
I mean, look, Jadon Sancho's another one, isn't it? God, what is it with Man United and your wingers? Look, I'll ask this question. This is an easier one, right? Is what Sancho has done that bad? Do we know what Sancho has done to be frozen out this much?
No.
Because the way I look at it is, and Man United fans might have a go at me here, I look at your wingers and I think, other than a couple of moments here or there, they look toothless. If I'm brutally honest, when I look at Garnacho, when I look at Anthony, when I look at all of them, it looks toothless to me. Now, do I think Jadon Sancho is God's gift to football? No. Do I think with a run of games consistently playing in his right position that he's better than all the wingers you've got? Yes, I do. Can
I interject for a second? Sorry. Enigma that super chatted. You've done an Arsenal super chat. When we get on to Arsenal, I'll read out your super chat. I don't like to read out super chats that are completely off topic from what we're on, because it breaks the flow of the show. So I haven't missed it. It's starred. I'll come to you soon, Enigma. Don't relax yourself, please, brother. So back to you, mate.
Yeah, no. So essentially, the crux of it for me is, are Man U a better team with him? I think so. Can the relationship be repaired between him and the manager? Why not? Somebody at this club who's got more power than Ten Hag should be grabbing this by the horns, right? I'm being serious now, right? Grabbing this by the horns.
No, I agree.
And saying, right, we paid X amount of money for you. You are paid X amount of money in wages. You are under pressure. You need to win games, right? Let's make this work. Let's get some positive back to United. Because think of the positives that this could, the ramifications it could have, Terry, right? So they come out in the press tomorrow, for example, and they squash their beef. They're in a press conference together. Look, what's happened's happened. We're burying it today. We're not going to answer questions on it, but it's been sorted. And Jadon is available for selection this weekend, right? That's positive. It shows that people within the club are trying to move in the right direction. At the moment, I can't see one positive at your club with the situation the way it is. I don't know. I might be wrong. I'm happy for people to tell me, but from an outsider's point of view, what positive have we got from having Ten Hag and Sancho not talking and Sancho not available to play football?
Look, I agree. I agree that there needs to be a resolution, and player power is something that must be eradicated at Manchester United. It does require somebody to come in and grab the ball by the horns. I think the reason this is dragged on again is because we're in the process of a new regime coming in, and I actually think it's right to leave this for them, because they'll actually be able to handle it easier, because they're going to be brand new and they're going to have no skin in the game in this argument. And I think it's going to help them. What the story fully says is that if they can't find a buyer for Sancho, they're going to look to rip up the contract. If you remove Sancho's name from this, because Man United fans, because we're an awfully run club and we're not successful at the moment, there is fans attach themselves to players more than they do the club. So they're never thinking about the club. They're always thinking about the treatment of an individual player. Yeah. I don't look at this as Sancho being mistreated. His contract being cancelled means he gets paid all his money. He just isn't a Man United player anymore. I don't personally see it as being mistreated per se. One mistake we've made for over a decade now is when we can't sell someone, keep them. We keep them for far too long. We keep them.
Are you talking to a Tottenham Hotspur fan about keeping Deadwood for too many years?
Yes, I am. I am.
Eric Dyer, anyone?
Exactly. So for me, with this particular scenario, with the Anthony Martials, with the McTominays, players that are just not good enough, that are never going to be good enough. If we can't find buyers for them in the next window or two, I think we should look to sever their contracts. Go, look, we're going to pay you off and move you on, just so we can free up some space in the squad for new individuals. The problem that one of the Glazer issues, which always goes under the radar for rivals, is how they like to back a dead donkey. They like to back a horse that isn't going to win. Oh, we paid 80 million for him. He's only worth 30 now. He's got 3 years left on his contract. We don't want to admit defeat and lose money on him. Let's keep him. Maybe he'll come good. Maybe we'll get that money in the future. They're basically it's a hit and hope approach, where actually sometimes if you have good owners, what you do is you go, do you know what? We're severing this. We're moving on. We're going to lose money, but we're not here to make money. We're here to make the team the best football team in the world. And losing, and that for me, I'm not saying they'll lose money on every player, but what that will also do is send a message to these players of, damn, we've got to back our ideas up, because if we ain't pulling our weight, they will sacrifice money to become more successful and sacrifice us. The message it sends is very good. I understand with the Sancho situation that it's going to be emotive because some people believe he's been mistreated. Some people believe that the club is mistreating him. I personally think, again, I think there's a happy medium. I don't like how public we've made this. I hate the stories that we've leaked about Jadon Sancho. I think it's wrong. You know, the fact we're making him eating his lunch at training in the training ground in his car because we won't let him in the canteen with the adults, but he can't obviously be in the private places with the under 18s that he trains with because he's an adult and they're not. That's horrendous treatment, in my opinion. I don't like it. I think that it is wrong. However, at the same time, we need to get serious as a football club. And if there's a player that doesn't want to play or a player that isn't good enough that we can't sell, why keep him here for 3 years as a problem? Cancel the contract, move him on, and reinvest, recoup that space in the squad, bring somebody else in and move forward. That's what I would personally do. And I'm encouraged by it, to be honest.
Do you know what? I think what you said at the beginning of that was really, really poignant. You know, when we're talking about players will come good, we hear it all the time. In fact, every fan base, right, does this. We've done it for years with Lo Celso. We'll probably have fans when Ndombele comes back in January because Galatasaray don't want him. Going, oh, he's been here 5 years. He will come good. I think half of the problem is you've got to give these players massive contract lengths to get them over the line. But then once you do, it's that risk, isn't it? If they don't work, how do you get them out if no one wants them? How do you get them out if they, you know, I mean, I use Ndombele as an example because he's Spurs record signing and he's on £10 million a year. So he's got a year and a half left on his contract. If we rip up his contract, that's £15 million, right? £15 million. Now, some people go, hang on, you get a player for that. So listen, it's the risk these clubs take when they're putting these massive players on massive contracts. Chelsea are going to find this out, right? All of these 6, 7, 8 year contracts. So it's tough, but something needs to give at United. And I'd love to know the full extent of the Sancho Ten Hag debacle. I'd love to know what was so bad that you're in the situation you're in now. Because these things are often not as bad as we think. Anything in life often isn't as bad as we think. So I'd love to know. I don't know if anyone does know, but
yeah, I agree. I just want the club to think about football first. And I get that the treatment of people is really, really important, but the reason why people are being mistreated and why people mistreat our club is because the relationship is toxic, and that's what it comes down to. The players think they're more powerful than they really are. Managers then struggle. They look for scapegoats, and it becomes a cycle. And then the fans pick and choose their morality on this circumstance, depending on how they feel about a manager and how they feel about players. And I've seen it. Man United, it's easier to assess because there's so many managers, but you'll get it in the Arsenal fan base as an example. If Arteta leaves tomorrow and a new guy comes in and has a very similar record to him, there'll be someone that's been Arteta out the whole time talking about what he doesn't like and where we should be. But if a new manager come in that he loves and respects, you watch there be far more leniency because people are putting individuals over their club. And what I'm trying to get back to myself on a more regular basis. I'll defend a player if they need to be defended. I'll defend a manager if they need to be defended. But overall, I'm thinking what's best at this moment in time for my football club. That should be the base for any football fan. And this isn't about Sancho for me, even though his name's being used. It's about we do need to start getting out the club players that don't want to be here or players that are surplus to requirements sooner rather than later. Man City have got Núñez, Phillips. They've just signed Doku. There's a lot of talk from City fans and rivals that those guys aren't good enough. Doku, I think will be, but City ain't going to sit on those players for 4, 5, 6 seasons.
No.
They're going to be gone and or replaced in 1 or 2 windows because they are serious. And it's amazing, isn't it? You don't get any accusations of bullying coming out of the club. It's not fair on the player because their fans don't care about that. Again, generally speaking, selling a football player, you're selling a multi-millionaire to another club to earn millions. I don't feel sorry for him. It's weird for me. This isn't like a working class person who's losing their job and bonus 2 weeks before Christmas and they can't afford to feed their kids. That's how people try and make football players being sold or phased out sound, and it's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah. Listen, I think Man City have set the template for letting players go. I mean, look, how many players have come and gone very quickly? Leroy Sané came and went very quickly. Mangala came and went very quickly. I'm probably missing loads. Lots of players have come through at Man City, played a little bit and gone. If Pep doesn't want you, or if Pep can do without you, he will let you go. But I think the difference is none of the players they bring in are that bad. Like when you look at Jadon Sancho's form, it wasn't good for a couple of years. I don't think you could say that about any of Man City's players, that they're that bad. Do you know what I mean? So even with a Calvin Phillips, have a look at Calvin Phillips, right? Who's not been getting a game. He's not done anything wrong, by the way. His is purely just because he can't get in above Rodri, right? Juventus, if I'm not wrong, the other day have put in a bid to take Calvin Phillips on loan. So it's not like Man City are peddling all these really terrible players that no one wants. It's right. Calvin Phillips needs to go. Oh, yeah. Juventus have come in for him.
But that's also because they moved them on quickly.
Yes, they don't let it fester. They don't.
Their valuation is still high. If you let them fester for 4, 5, 6. Also, if a footballer's sitting around barely playing for 4 or 5, 6 years, they're done anyway. We see it in fighting more, but you become very inactive, and it's very, very hard to get back to wherever you were. So it's the right thing to do. There's some super chats here. Luis Diaz for Jadon Sancho swap deal. Both teams win. Listen, there's talk of Man United going after doing a swap deal for Raphinha for him. Now, I don't necessarily think Raphinha is this world-class player, but I'd take Raphinha in a heartbeat over what we have right now.
Yeah. You're right. He's not a world beater, but what you get with Raphinha is you do get every now and then some of the games he plays, you go, oh, he looks good. And he tries. I watched him the other night for Barcelona. It wasn't his best game, but he's constantly trying to get at his fullback. He's constantly trying to drive forward. I think he's much better than what you got.
I agree completely. Another big transfer that could happen this January, and according to a director, and this is what's really, we know Arsenal are the front runners. We know Arsenal have done a lot of work on the players' side already. But a deal could be very close. News headline here says Arsenal handed a boost in their pursuit of Ivan Toney as Brentford chief admits the striker could leave very shortly in the January window. He has said it has to be for the right price. So Brentford essentially saying, look, if we get that bid, he's going. Arsenal seemingly the front runners in this. How big and important a signing do you think Ivan Toney could and will be for Arsenal this January window, Sav?
Yeah, I mean, I took that to mean that they want an extortionate fee, but if it's met, he goes. And I reckon that fee starts with the number 1. And I'm not talking about double digits. I reckon listen, if you're Brentford, it's what Brighton do, right? If you're maybe 85, 90, I don't know. But to answer your question, I think it's what Arsenal need. And it's not about, I mean, I was just having this conversation on Judge Mo's channel. And so for me, it's not about, oh, he's got to replace Jesus. He's got to replace Martinelli. For me, it's about options. Arsenal at the moment, their front three, right? Whether it's Europe, whether it's the league, you know what they're going to do. So, and again, I bring City into it. When City, over the years, when they've been winning everything, if they've got a big game in Europe on the Wednesday, right? And then they've got a big game in the league at the weekend. They'll mix it up. They will mix it up and you'll go, oh, why is Foden not playing today? Foden's not playing because they're playing Man United at the weekend. He's going to play in that game. I think Arsenal need to get to that stage where it's about Toney coming in, Martinelli and Jesus can swap on that left-hand side and Jesus can swap on the right-hand side with Saka. A bit of options, giving the players some rest, mixing it up a bit, giving their opposition something to think about. I think it will do them the world of good if he can hit the ground running. Apparently, he's kept himself in very good shape. He's kept himself fit. Is the match sharpness there? Can match sharpness ever be there after that long out? But again, forget short term. How big could this be for letting him settle this year? And then they start next season with him. So I think if they do it, I'll hate it as a Spurs fan. but I think is very good for them if they manage to get him.
Yeah, listen, I understand that. How quickly will he make an impact? Because no, he's had nothing. I mean, it could go the other way, and he does. I'm assuming he's doing it now, some type of preseason level of training. As an example, he's allowed to play in like behind friendlies and behind closed doors games. I'm sure he started doing stuff like that. He could come in absolutely fresh as a daisy and be amazing. But I think Arsenal have got to pay almost whatever it costs. Almost whatever it costs, they've got to go out and get. I don't think it'll be quite 100 million. I think it'll be nearer the 80 million pound mark. But I think it'll be money well spent. I think he's a sensational player. I think he can operate in multiple roles in the attack. He isn't just an out-and-out goal-scoring number 9. He can hold the ball up, bring others into play. Options, as you mentioned, is great. But I think for Arsenal, look, by the end of this, we're going to get onto their game a little bit later. By the end of this weekend, some might be calling them title favourites if they go and beat Liverpool. But I think a signing such as Ivan Toney gives them such a bigger and such a better chance. It just adds more goals to their team and just that variation of play, if that makes sense. I think that Eddie Nketiah is a decent player, but I just think Ivan Toney's absolutely clear of him. Yeah. I think he's clear of him.
Different. And I think at the moment, listen, I'm not saying, it's very difficult to stop Arsenal. I mean, they've lost 2 games all season, maybe 1, 2. I don't know. Arsenal fans will tell me in the chat if they've lost 1 or 2. 2 games. They lost 2 games. So it's difficult to beat them. But I think it gives them another dimension. It makes them more difficult to play against because you know what they're going to do with Jesus, Martinelli and Saka. Toney gives them a bit more of that kind of ruggedness. He gives you a bit more of that direct nature in play. I'm not saying long balls. I'm just saying, he's a centre forward, a traditional centre forward. I would listen. You know me. I don't think Arsenal will win the league, but a signing like Toney, maybe one other, and then I'll have to start going, oh my God, hang on. Are they going to bloody win this? So we'll see. But again, it's big money. And what's got to happen, Terry? Here you go. Here's what's got to happen. I'm going to caveat this. I get loads of Arsenal fans that come into my chat and they're talking about, oh my God, this player could sign for us and that player's going to sign for us. We're in talks with Zubimendi. We're in talks with Toney, blah, blah, blah. If Arsenal get this player, there's no excuses to not win the league. There can't be excuses, Terry. It can't be, we didn't have... They've got to do it.
But there can be if you don't think they're the favourites. That means you don't think they're the best. That's literally a reason.
Yeah, but depending on who they bring in. If they bring in the missing jigsaw parts.
If they sign Ivan Toney, do you think they're then the best team in England?
I think if they get another midfielder in as well, then they're there alongside City. I don't think I've said this all along. I think a lot of people always listen to me because I'm a Spurs fan and think that I hate Arsenal. I hate Arsenal I hate Arsenal because they're our rivals. But I said on a show earlier, Terry, I never ever want to see Arsenal get relegated. I never want to see that. People will think it's funny, but you need your rivals, right? Watching Rangers and Celtic in those leagues when they didn't have each other to play against, you need those rivalries, right? Liverpool and Everton, right. You've got to have them. So for me, I think Arsenal are a really, really good team that, for me, are a couple of players short. I could be proved wrong on this. And as I've said to you before, if I'm proved wrong, the worst thing that happens is I'm wrong, right? If I'm proved wrong on this at the end of the season and they can win this title without a Toney or another midfielder, sure. But I do think with adding those couple of players, they could win it. But a caveat again, and this is the merry-go-round of football. That doesn't mean that Man City aren't going to go out and buy what they need. Right?
No, I
so there's moving parts to all of this.
So I understand that, but Arsenal seem to be the only team where people say, but there's no excuse not to win. And I'm like, okay, I like to break that down as if there's no excuse to win, that means you must think them and their manager collectively are the best.
Not right now. Not right now.
No, I understand. I'm talking generally here. Because if, for instance, if you think they're the 4th best team in England, the statement they have no excuse not to win the league is futile, because the fact you think 3 other teams are better than them is quite literally the reason they might not win the league.
Sure.
So I think for me, I actually think they have to turn around. Someone who says no excuses because it's been 4 years, but I don't get what you mean. No excuses means you think they're the best, and that's why they shouldn't win.
Sure.
If you think the manager isn't good enough, then there's an excuse for him not to win the league. Because
I agree.
I don't get it.
Okay, Terry, I agree. My point is this, right? At the moment, I don't think they are going to win the league. If Arsenal don't win the league, I'm not one of those fans that will sit there and go, do me a favour. I won't ask ever again. Sorry, just one bloke. This Bruno bloke in the chat is trying to call me an alcoholic and that. And I you know what I'm going through at the moment, Terry. So I don't need that from this bloke. Cheers. Right. At the end of the day, as it stands right now, if Arsenal don't win the league, I wasn't expecting Arsenal to win a league. I don't look at them and think they're as good as Man City overall. Now, obviously, things happen in a season. Players get injured, timing, bad form, all this kind of stuff. It's absolutely fine, right? But if Arsenal go and sign, I'm getting Arsenal fans tell me, if we get Ivan Toney, we'll win this league. Cool, okay.
I understand that. Yeah.
Get him, and then when I'm saying there's no excuses from those fans, I don't necessarily think that just buying Ivan Toney wins them the league, but it's like me sitting here right now as a Spurs fan and saying, you know what? If Spurs sign, I'll just pick a player. If Spurs sign Santiago Jimenez and Jean Clair Todibo, we'll win the league. Now, you won't hear me come out with that. I don't make outrageous statements. But if I do say that and then we don't win the league, where have I got to go? Where have I got to go from that, right?
So I hear you on that. And me and Lee had this conversation yesterday on a different subject matter. I get calling out it. So if Igal, I'm using Igal, says we get Toney, we win the league. Then Igal is making the statement that with Toney, we're the best team in England. So Igal has no excuses.
That's what I meant. That's what I said.
Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying. Like Igal can't give you the excuse the squad ain't good enough, the manager ain't good. He might go, I got it wrong because these guys. But there's no excuse in terms of for Arsenal. If you don't think Arsenal will win in the league, like me and Leo had this conversation the other day. He basically said that United fans are lowering the standard, partly for celebrating the draw. I get that. The other element was you guys should be expecting your team to go there and score 2 or 3 goals. I said, but you predicted us losing 4-0. So I don't really understand how you can say that we're bad supporters because we thought we'd lose as well. We think we're as bad as you think we are. It's an interesting one for me, and I don't always get it. But on Arsenal, and we're going to come to the Arsenal super chats in a minute. But they play Liverpool this weekend.
Yeah.
How do you see this game going? Because Liverpool were. A large part of it was Man United defended well, but they were awful against Man United. If they play like that against Arsenal, I think Arsenal will beat them. How do you see this game going? The record at Anfield for Arsenal isn't good, but this isn't the same Arsenal team that we've seen in recent years. Liverpool are going to look to respond. They've got a midweek game, though, tonight against West Ham. How do you see this big Premier League game going on Sunday, mate?
I just hope for one that it's better than the dross that we watched at the weekend, because that was such a bad game of football, Liverpool v Man United. Look, I think it's going to be a completely different game. Liverpool don't tend to lose at Anfield. So if Arsenal go there and beat them...
Saturday, by the way, the game is not Sunday. Saturday, sorry. Saturday, sorry.
If Arsenal go there and beat them, that is a real sign. That's a real signal of intent. I think that's huge for Arsenal if they can go there and win that. And I think what they then start to do is start to bridge a little bit of a gap between them and City. Obviously, City will have games in hand, but Liverpool don't really, even when they're not playing well, they don't tend to lose at home. And I would expect to see a much better performance from Liverpool this weekend. I think it's a really tough one to call. It's a really, really tough one to call. I don't know. My first thought when I think of it is draw. If I'm brutally honest, my first thought is that this will be a draw, quite high scoring. But I think whoever wins that puts themselves in a lovely position, right? I think a draw would be absolutely fantastic for Man City. Man City will be watching this game thinking, if we can come out of this bad run that they've had with a game in hand and only 6 points behind the leaders, they'll be all over that. Because I said this on a show earlier. The key thing for me is, even though Man City have had this bad run, neither Liverpool or Arsenal, for me, capitalised and really went out in front. Do you know what I mean? And that's why this game is even bigger for me, because whoever wins it will feel that they're in a really, really good position to kick on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one of those. Look, I don't actually think a draw is the worst result for Arsenal anyway. For Liverpool to draw 2 on the bounce is bad.
I agree.
There's some. I don't think Arsenal winning it is a guarantee they're winning the Premier League. I also don't think them not winning the game writes them out of this title race, because lots of the top teams are going to try and win the league this year, and there's a few have got to go away to Anfield, and very few teams ever win there. So, but winning there is that bonus. You get 3 points at a ground that most people are expecting you to get maybe 1 at, if not none. That's almost like 3 extra points that you're not expected to get. When you play the teams in the middle of the table, bottom of the table, sometimes harder to put a barometer in there, because it's hit and miss how good they are most seasons. Where with Liverpool, pretty much going to Anfield every year, it's almost like that's such a tough game for you to get a result at. So it will be a massive, massive bonus for Arsenal to go and get it done. I also believe they still haven't had yet this season. They beat City, so you could argue that was. Yeah. But I still don't feel like they've had that win yet where the majority of football fans have gone, damn. Right. And what's interesting for me is looking at Arsenal this year, because last year I called out a lot of people's punditry towards Arsenal because I felt it was really unfair. An example I give you, most of the pundits last year who said that the title race doesn't start until the last 5, 6, 7 games, barring Gary Neville, by the way, have all said that Aston Villa are in the title race. That, like, last year they played Arsenal down the whole year, but Villa are in the title race. They even said you guys are in the title race after 5 games. So you can clearly see there's an agenda or a bias there. But I'm really intrigued to see what people say if Arsenal do win this match. I'm just genuinely intrigued because when they fell off last year, the rhetoric was, the narrative was, Arsenal will never be clear of City again. They will never be top of the league again like they were. If they could go into a point where they're 8 points clear of Manchester City, yes, City have a game in hand, but you've got to win that game in hand. If they get 8 points clear of them again, a year more experience, a year of feeling that pain of missing out, Declan Rice in, January window just ahead. I'm just genuinely intrigued to see what people say, because what they're doing right now, Arsenal, is what most pundits and most rivals said would not be happening this at this stage again. So I'm just intrigued to see what the reaction will be to Arsenal winning this football match. I'm just genuinely intrigued.
It's as I said, I think it's massive for Arsenal. I mean, when they played Villa the other week, I thought to myself, if Arsenal can grab 3 points at Villa here, that's a real sign where I sit up and go, oh, wow. But they didn't. They got a chance to do it again this weekend, because again, it will be another massive game where you sit up and go, wow, they're serious. But equally, like you said, a draw is a good result for Arsenal. I wasn't saying it wasn't a good result for them. I was just saying that I think that a point will be something that Man City will be happy with. Because if Man City could have come out, Man City have won 1 in 6, right? If Man City can win 1 in 6 and come out of this and go, okay, we've got a game in hand and we're only 6 points behind the front 2, I think they take that because they quite relish the chase. But there's a difference between 6 points and 8 points. Somebody said to me this morning when I did this, they said, what's the difference between 6 points and 8 points? So it's a whole extra win, isn't it? It's a whole extra win.
Yeah, of course.
So for me, I think it's a huge game this weekend. Arsenal win it, and if Arsenal win it, they're going to have every confidence and belief that they can add a couple of players in January and kick on and win it. Not saying they will, but they will believe they will.
No, listen, I hear you. And I think for Liverpool as well, they weren't very good the other day, and I understand the criticism. But I also think this is a chance for Liverpool to win this, go top for Christmas. The irony in it is, whichever one of these two teams is, I swear Liverpool and Arsenal are like joint with each other of teams that have been top at Christmas and not won the league. I think they're the two that, like, in the Premier League era, like, rule the roost on that. So, but I still think it's generally speaking a good omen to be top of the Premier League at Christmas. It's always better to be top than not. I think it's a good chance for Liverpool as well to send out a message, because I still think too many people have written off. They didn't beat Man United. And as much as I enjoyed, winding up with Sam, who said it'd be 6-0 and it'd be an embarrassing result if it was only 4-0, it was fun to have a little bit of a laugh with them. But this idea that like that one draw means that's it, Liverpool can't win the league, so bloody strange. So strange indeed for people to even think like that. It's crazy to me. And that's where I am consistent. People go, you just work for Arsenal. No, I'm defending Liverpool here as well. They're not written off because they drew with Man United. You know, it's crazy to me. But it's going to be an interesting game. Fabrizio just tweeted, actually. Quote tweeted a tweet of his from the 9th of November and said that Douglas Luiz remains Arsenal's favourite option as midfielder. He's considered the perfect player. But Aston Villa remain on their position. They don't want to sell him. No change since November. The last word on his tweet, yet.
I would be absolutely gobsmacked if the position Aston Villa are in now, that they want to rock the boat by letting one of their top players go to a team that they are, 1 point behind or whatever. At the weekend, by the way, this weekend, if Liverpool and Arsenal do draw, Villa will be top if they beat Sheffield United.
Yeah, well, they play first, don't they? They play on Friday, so they could. I understand you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I agree, but only if the player wants to leave, I think they should sell him. I'm not saying he's not professional, but when players want to leave, that can become more problematic if they stay. What you could use, I totally get your point, and I think it holds so much water. The other side of it is, and this is what we haven't gauged yet, the media will probably tell us. If he's like, look, I'd love to go, but I'm so dedicated to Villa, they are not budging. If he says, I know we're in a title race as well, but I am so desperate to be an Arsenal player, and if I miss out now, they might go for... Look at the Caicedo thing. They missed out on Caicedo in the January. They end up with Declan Rice. Wonder how Caicedo is feeling about that right now. He might push for it. And if he's pushing for it, Villa can use it to their advantage. They can say, do you know what? Big money. Let's get a replacement lined up. But let's use his sale to them as a way to motivate the rest of the team to say, we'll fucking show him for leaving and going down there to beat us. I think it really depends on how desperate Luiz is to join Arsenal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, listen, absolutely. Look, there's always more than one way of looking at something, right? It could be that, look, I think Unai Emery is a serious operator. This is a seriously experienced manager. I think what you'll have is Unai Emery in the year of Douglas Luiz going, give us to the end of the season. I'll let you go in the summer. If you really want to go, I'll let you go in the summer. But let's not derail what's going on here at the moment. Yeah? Let's not derail from the fans that have stuck behind you, stuck behind me. Listen, I wonder what the fee would be to get him. I think it would be a great signing for Arsenal. If you've got Declan Rice, Douglas Luiz, and Odegaard as a free, that's a good midfield free, right? That's a top midfield free. I just don't see Villa. Only me, I might be wrong. I just don't see them selling him in a January transfer window. Not with, I think if Villa were 10th, maybe. I think where Villa are right now, Villa will be sitting there going, hang on, we're very much in a Champions League race here.
Yeah,
we're very much in a Champions League race. I think it'll be crazy if they sell him. I don't know his situation in terms of contract. I don't know how long he's got left. So that might all play a part in it as well.
Mm. Well, listen, I of course, all the stories will say that Douglas Luiz is sold on the Villa project, but that's what he has to say. Because if he goes, no one will care about his words. If he stays, he has to say, well, of course I didn't want to leave. I love you guys. Like, that's all you're going to hear from their side of things. So, Terry, are Villa serious? Villa are a very good team. And they're playing very, very well right now. I don't quite understand. I'd love you to contextualize what you mean by, are they serious? Do they have owners that want to win? Yes. Does that mean they're going to build a wage bill like Man United or Cities? No, because they physically can't. And it's just one of those things for me. So, but they are serious. Yeah, they're trying to win the league. Their manager is a serious manager. But there we go. Do you know how much the Arsenal transfer budget is? No, I mean, there's a lot of talk they're not going to buy anybody because they're close to FFP, but they're also going to try and sell people. But I've seen 3 or 4 seasons running every summer. Man United fans are told we're only going to spend between 80 and 100 million because of FFP, and we always drop 150 to 200 million. So, again, I would take it with a slight pinch of salt. Arsenal want to. I wouldn't even be surprised if Arsenal were the ones pushing that narrative to drive prices down of players. So they've definitely got money. In my personal view, they're too rich not to. Terry, what's the truth? I have no idea what you are talking about. Boston says facts 100%. Sava is what my man has said here. Enigma, back to your super chat from earlier today. He says Rice is the reason Arsenal's defense is better, but also the reason for the lack of fluidity. Fitness and leadership is the only reasons most rate Rice. So do you think Arsenal were stronger because of Rice? Do you agree with this? But they've lost their fluidity. Is that because of Rice, in your opinion?
No. I think Declan Rice is a fantastic midfielder. Again, I think he's the consummate professional. You know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get the worst you're going to get from this guy is a 7. You're going to get 10s every now and then, and anywhere in between. He's brilliant in the tackle. He's brilliant in the recovery. His passing's good. He's a leader. Said at the beginning of the season, I think the 105 million everyone talked about. If you actually break that down, Terry, if he stays at Arsenal for 6, 7, 8 years, it's nothing. If you break that down over that many years, that many games, for me, the next captain of Arsenal, I think Arsenal have lacked a bit of the fluidity of last year. I don't think the midfield three is right. I don't think that's Rice's fault. I think they've not quite got that third wheel right. Odegaard, Rice, I don't think they've managed to quite solve that third wheel in midfield. But I wouldn't put this down to Rice in any way, shape or form. I think he's been one of the players of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Safe here says, Sav, I hope you have recovered well. I saw your video. Apology, mate. Stay strong and be positive, mate. Just bear in mind, you've done nothing wrong, mate. Things get out of hand. Sav, if you need anything, please let me know. That's from my stalker, Safe. He's my stalker.
Okay.
He turned up at my work once. I wouldn't DM him or anything. He's a nice guy, but he's not to be trusted. Like if he ever gets a sniff of where you live, you'll put the bins out one night, and he'll just be sitting there on your front wall, going, "Hello, Sav. It's Safe here." That's how he speaks.
Well, look, it's very, very kind of him to say that. It's just a situation that got blown a little bit out of control. I had a little bit too much to drink. Went onto a stream. Called out a few people. I've since spoken to those people, apologized to those people. I'm friends with those people, but I was blah, 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 blah. And I think it's being taken out of control a little bit by people, Terry, now all across the internet, guys. Sav is an alcoholic. I was like, what? Because I went on stream drunk. So listen, thank you to that person. Yes, thank you.
It's weird it's weird how like Lee Gunner has a drink, but I don't think people actually understand what an alcoholic is. Drinking doesn't make you an alcoholic. Being drunk doesn't make you an alcoholic. Liking drink doesn't make you an alcoholic. They're not the same things. Very strange. Rice does not turn and break lines like Partey. Simple. Look, Partey's very good at doing that. There's no doubt. I blame Partey for that then. I blame Partey for not being fit enough. I wouldn't be blaming Rice for somebody who can't stay fit not being in your team. That's not on Declan Rice. That's on Thomas Partey.
I'd ask the question, if Rice and Partey played together in midfield, right, I think that would look really well. Look, I think we spend a lot of time worrying about this player can do this player can't do that. But yeah, they're very different players. Like, Declan Rice isn't the same player as Partey. There are many things that Declan Rice can do that Partey can't. So I don't feel we should always put everyone against each other and he can do this, he can't,
Totally agree. Curran here says Liverpool are going for Toney and he's a Liverpool fan. So who are you selling then? So are you selling Darwin Núñez or Gakpo? Which of the two are you selling? Genuinely, because there's no way you're going to have three. I know Gakpo goes in midfield a lot, but there's no way you're getting Toney if those two players remain at your club. We never win there since 2012. We will win. The win will be huge. Is it 2012 since Arsenal won there? Wow. What a win that would be.
I tell you what, this is the thing. We were talking earlier about there are some grounds you don't want to go to ever. Like Old Trafford used to be that ground. Anfield is that ground.
It is for you lot.
Oh, for us, not for us, but I mean, listen, as I've said, I can't keep saying it, even as a Spurs fan. If Arsenal go to Liverpool and win that is, for me, I'll call it. For me, and we'll do this, I don't know if we're doing this show next week, so it'll be the 27th, but for me, that will be the biggest signal of intent I've seen from this Arsenal team in the last 2 years. That will, going to Anfield and winning is massive. Yeah. Same way as if they go to Man City and win. Massive. These are great, great signals of intent. But equally, if Liverpool win, Liverpool will be top of the table and they'll feel they'll feel like they're in a great position. So, yeah, listen, from a neutral point of view, it will be good to watch, I hope.
I mean, neutral, you're in the title race. Zane here says, before the start of the season, I told Terry and Sava that Villa have a top 4 squad and 3rd best manager in the Premier League. Just reminding myself. Cheers, I got something over Sava. Big up both of you and KJ. Thank you.
Do you know what I love about this? Do you know what I love about this, right? In my fan base, the amount of shit I get because I'm always praising Aston Villa and I was in the summer. And then I get someone coming on your show going, I got something over Sava. Ask any Spurs fans what I think of Villa. I think Emery's a brilliant manager. I think they've bought well. I think they've got good depth. And I think he's doing a wonderful job. For me, at the moment, he's my manager of the season. I don't know. I'm sure most people would agree with that. For me, he's been the manager of the season. I think he's done an absolutely wonderful job. And I truly think that if they can keep the nucleus of their players together, start adding a few better ones, they could be a very, very good team in the next 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. A good side.
Charles here, I think he's talking back about United cancelling contracts here, but he says Arsenal did this with Ozil, Aubameyang, Bellerin, Mustafi, Socrates, Kolasinac. Sometimes you have to take the hit and move forward. Yeah, you do. I think you absolutely do. And it's why I agree with the action. I'm just the only part of me that's frustrated about it is it will just become a fan war because Man United fans are generally speaking more attached to players than they are the club, and they don't think about the club first. They think about their favorite players. But I also understand that. I saw this with Liverpool fans in the 90s and the early noughties. They were far too attached to players than they were the football club because they become not an average football club, but they'd fallen from the powers that they once knew. This here from Rooks, who says, big up, Sav mates.
Big up, Rooksy.
Thank you very much indeed. Look, I want to thank everybody that has tuned into the show today. We're going to be back live after Liverpool West Ham tonight. We've got the top 6 show tomorrow, which I'm very, very excited about as we preview the games. But listen, we've got football matches right up until Christmas Eve. Yeah, I don't even know when I'm seeing. I don't know when I'm spending time with the family yet.
Don't worry about that.
It's football. It's football to be done. I want to thank everyone. Sav, always a pleasure, mate, to speak football with you. To everyone who's super chatted, you're amazing. To everyone who's hit the like button, thank you. Please make sure you have bell notifications turned on as well so you don't miss any more of our content. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all